Last week, a client said, I know I'm getting into the weeds here, but I only have X keyword twice, not three times. Shouldn't it appear three times? Listen, if you've ever gotten stuck perfecting a tiny detail and lost sight of the bigger goal, especially if it has to do with your resume or another part of the job search, then stick around. Because perfectionism sneaks in by convincing you that the smallest detail is so much more important than the actual outcome. Now, don't get me wrong, this episode is for me too. I actually was reminded that I myself am a recovering perfectionist. See, I created a piece of content a couple weeks ago, and I'm in the call where I'm getting feedback from my coach. And she says, literally in front of everybody, she goes, Patricia, I know you. Don't go and re record this. Just get the episode out. If that resonates with you, that feeling of, I want to redo it because I want it to be perfect, then you and I are in the same boat. So I don't know if you're taking a run right now, if you're doing laundry, maybe you're driving. All I know is you're going to want to stay till the end if this sounds like you, because by the end, you'll determine your next action to get rid of perfectionism and get momentum in your search. By the end, you'll know how to spot perfectionism. You'll figure out how it's sabotaging your search and how to fix it. All this so that you can get away from perfection and become more decisive. And that's going to give you the mental space to focus on what really makes a difference. Okay, but before we start, you're here because you want to do things well. So let's set your foundation right. Download our strategy. I drop in there the 5 steps showing you how to think differently about every single part of your job search, especially when it comes to this new and kind of crazy market. So click the link in the description for the 90 days to the right offer, or head over to theuncommoncareer.com/90. Again, that's theuncommoncareer.com/90. Hey there, my name is Patricia. I'm your career coach, your brand strategist, and yes, fellow recovering perfectionist. I help professionals move past mental blocks so that you can enjoy the search, experience success faster, and get a better offer. And of course, this is the Uncommon Career Podcast, where I introduce you to the concepts that get my clients hired. So let's help you decide right now if you need to take action on this perfectionism. See, perfectionism is a cycle. If you take nothing else from this episode, you got to get this cycle down, because once you see it, then you can start to interrupt it. So here's how it works. You want something to be perfect, just right. So you spend your time either tweaking, or you tweak and then you let it simmer. Either way, time passes. And that could be a couple days, a week, a month. Notice that during this time, your momentum totally dies out. From there, urgency builds, and you think to yourself, oh my gosh, I really got to get a move on this. I got to get a job. And that urgency turns into this low level anxiety that's always there, always in the background. And eventually, that anxiety leads to an avoidance, a procrastination. Because if you don't know how to make something quote unquote perfect, then it doesn't matter how much effort you put into it. And somewhere deep down, you know this. Perfectionism doesn't make you more careful or doesn't help you do a better job. It makes you stuck. And most of us don't notice that it's happening until it's way too late. But when urgency gets to its peak, that's when time runs out and you feel like you're forced into action. But at this point, it's rushed, it's sloppy, and it's incomplete because it's never what you wanted. You were waiting for something perfect. In reality, perfection never arrives. It's sort of a false hope. And it's one of multiple destructive cycles that you'll encounter in the job search. So, again, this is the part you want to remember. You're looking at tweak and simmer. That's part one. Then you get into urgency. Urgency leads to avoidance or procrastination. And procrastination leads to sloppy action. So, how is your job search going right now? You might be trying to figure out your career direction. But if the more you research, the more you realize I'm not getting closer and closer to clarity, I'm actually moving closer and closer to overwhelm. That might be a sign of perfectionism. Or if you're updating your resume but never feel like you're quite done, it's never really ready, and you don't know what it will look like when it is ready. Or if you find yourself leaving an interview and you blanked out on things you actually knew, keep in mind that's probably because when your mind is hunting for the perfect answer, it's going to block the real answer. That's why people leave interviews saying things like, I knew the answer. I have no idea why I didn't just spit it out. But see, here's the important part. If any of that sounds familiar, you're probably in one of three scenarios. But as you listen, I don't want you to think about how to fix it just yet. Just notice which one of the three scenarios applies to you and then confirm that. Because if you can commit to a direction, this applies to all decisions and all momentum. If you can commit to a direction, then that clarity comes and you know what to do next. And so that's what we want. We want to be able to take the very next step. So here's scenario one. Scenario one is if this is only happening in your job search. If you had guidance, if you had feedback, if you had a process that you knew you could trust, would that solve your perfectionism? Would that solve your problem? If that's the case, then this scenario is situation specific, meaning just right now and just in this situation, just in this job search. If that's the case, you don't need any more information, especially not any more conflicting information, because that's what's leading to the overwhelm. You're trying to get this perfect right answer, but you can't because people are telling you different things. And they all sound credible, and they might all be credible. The difference is that because you have four different strategies, now when you get into the job search, your employer is going to experience four different communication styles or four different messages. And so what you need is one system, one set of standards, and then guardrails to make sure that you stick to that one direction and that one strategy. So this is not about 50 top podcasts. It's not about 10 strategies and 3 books and, anything else. You need one way, one process, and then the trust and confidence to commit to that one process. That's scenario 1. That's your situation specific perfectionism. But what if you're in this season where perfectionism seems to come in at different parts of your life? It's not just a job search, but it's also at work. Or maybe it's also with a big move that you're planning. You seem to get stuck, like really trying to get things perfectly, but it's not helping you to move forward. If you think to yourself, I've usually been pretty decisive, but lately, everything just feels harder and heavier. And I can't seem to get to that smooth momentum that I feel when I've got a lot of energy and I'm just doing things right, or at least it feels like I'm doing things right. If that's you, then this is more about behavioral change than tactics. Yes, the job search support is going to be helpful, but the important piece is turning the corner to come back to the successful and decisive person you know you are. You just need to find her again. The job search then becomes training ground where you learn to recognize that pattern and interrupt it in real time. So now you're moving forward in the job search with best practices while you're also coming back to yourself with behavioral change. Two birds, one stone. Now, this is where our program really works hard for you. Transformational coaching means that I don't just give you the tactics and we don't just develop your brand. We coach through your entire transition. And that includes the mental and behavioral habit changes that you need in order to focus on impact and to show up decisively. The link is in the description to get on a call and to talk more specifically about your goals. But you can always just type it into your browser. That's theuncommoncareer.com/call. Okay, so let's jump into scenario number 3. This is your long-standing perfectionism. If it's more than in this season or lately, it's felt like I kind of lean towards perfectionism. If you've always struggled to move forward unless something feels perfect, and even when you have reassurance and best practices and feedback, you still feel stuck. And if this affects multiple areas of your life, then we're no longer in coaching territory alone. That's where counseling or therapy becomes a bit of an anchor, and then the job search support becomes secondary. Now, there's zero judgment here. As someone who's gone through counseling myself, you should know that going to counseling means knowing where you're strong and where you want to become stronger, and then having the wisdom to seek the support to get to where you need to go. Now, let's come back up to a 50,000-foot view and let's talk really quickly about what it looks like to leave perfectionism behind. What does it look like in real life? One of my clients, we're going to call her Shelly for today. She started out by saying things like, I know I'm going in circles here, but didn't we use this keyword twice instead of 3 times? She knew she was in the weeds because she said, I know I'm going in circles here. But she also didn't know how or when to stop because she continued on with her question, right? Now, the program provided anchored standards and consistent feedback. And with those two pieces, something shifted over time. Instead of asking really detailed questions, she started asking more big picture questions like, overall, is this positioning me for X kind of roles? That's a big difference. She stopped trying to perfect small details and started thinking more strategically. And her biggest takeaway? She said, now I know what this feels like. And because I know what it feels like, I can stay in this space. The awareness she gained followed her into her onboarding, into meetings, and into leadership. And that's the real win here. It is the job search, but it's not just the job search. It's not just the offer. It's a transformation that goes with you everywhere. Now, this is where you want to think like a CEO. A good CEO doesn't want to be right. They want to arrive at the best possible outcome. So, your goal is to be that CEO. You have to stop trying to be right all on your own and start deciding what actually matters and what you need to do to get there. You're never going to see a CEO obsess over formatting or capitalization. They decide the direction and then they figure out who they're going to get to support the rest. Most people are fantastic at their jobs. I'm guessing that's you too. I'm guessing you're stinking amazing at your job. But job searching, developing a brand for yourself, marketing the brand, and selling that professional value, that's a completely different skill. So the question becomes, what are you confident in? What do you need support for? And how do you move faster without blowing all your energy on the wrong things? And it's those types of decisions that change the trajectory of a company and that could change the trajectory of your life. So let's close the loop here. Perfectionism often follows a pattern. You tweak and simmer. While you're simmering, that builds urgency. That urgency leads to avoidance, and that avoidance eventually makes it so urgent for you to take action. But at that point, it's sloppy action. You might find yourself somewhere in that perfectionism loop right now. But you really don't have to quit perfectionism. You can't quit cold turkey. I don't think anybody can do that from one day to the next. But your job right now, the way you make progress is to notice it and then to decide where it's coming from and to choose the right level of support. But if you see the pattern and you're just not sure what to do next, then I encourage you to start with our one-on-one diagnostic. You can head over to theuncommoncareer.com/audit. And what you'll do is send in your resume, give me your LinkedIn URL, and drop a few postings, those job postings that you're interested in. And that way, that will help me prepare. And when you and I meet, we'll pinpoint exactly what's slowing you down, in what ways it might be impacting your search, and some very specific steps to get you moving in the right direction. Again, that's theuncommoncareer.com/audit to schedule a quick one-on-one diagnostic. Remember, you are the CEO of your own career. You decide what direction you go in, how fast you'll get there, and how successfully you'll meet your goal. I'm so thrilled to be a part of your process. And I wish you all the best in this next week, in this next year, and as you continue on with your search. If you and I get a chance to talk, then I cannot wait to meet you. And if we meet next week, then I will see you then for another episode of the Uncommon Career Podcast. Until then, know that Denise and I are cheering you on. We're praying for you, and we'll see you on the next one. Hey, thanks for listening. I really appreciate you spending time with me today. If you found this episode helpful, please tap the 5-star review on the show's homepage in your podcast app. It would absolutely make my day, and it helps others discover the Uncommon Career Podcast. Now, to download your free career resources and learn how I help seasoned professionals land amazing offers in as little as 90 days, click on the link in the description or go to theuncommoncareer.com. Thanks again, and I'll see you on the next one.